Hey, it is the Coach and Cruise podcast, live stream number 6. We're back from vacation. Cruise, how's it going? How was your vacation? How was your time off with the fam? Let us
It was
know.
good. Yeah, it was good. We flew out. I worked last Saturday night. I worked my normal shift. I got home at 3:30, and we departed for the airport at 4:30. So we were about an hour drive to the San Jose airport. I was on 1 hour of sleep. I got to get a little cat nap in the car on the way there. I slept on the plane. So all in all, with day one, basically the idea for us is to get through the first day, and then I can kind of catch up on some sleep. I got like 2.5 hours the first day, but I was able to make it through. We went to San Diego, stayed in the Gas Lamp district. We stayed at the Hard Rock right there in downtown San Diego, where we were able to go to Mission Beach. We went to SeaWorld, and we caught a Padres game the last day, which is pretty cool. I'll get into that a little bit later. We had a really good trip. It was kind of crazy how when you check into your hotel, and you know all about this. Like I always tell myself, well, we got 4 days. We're gonna be here 4 days, and you're so looking forward to it. And all of a sudden, you wake up the last day, and it's like, oh man, everybody's packing their bags, and we're getting back on the plane to go home. But it was a quick trip. We went like 3.5 days, but we had the kids and we had a blast, and we did some really fun stuff. So
That's awesome. We are going to talk vacations today. We're going to talk about the wild ending of the College World Series from a few weeks ago. We're going to do a little bit of 49er depth chart discussion, talk about the Giants and their trades and how they're doing currently and what's going on with them. A little bit of San Jose Sharks, actually, NHL draft first round last night. Sharks picked up a couple guys. We'll talk about that. And then kind of start just a simple talk about college football. We haven't talked about that much, but it's coming so fast that we need to start getting into that because I think that's going to take up a lot of our time here in the future. But let's continue on since we're on the vacation topic. I got back from Kauai. I went for 10 days. We kind of had a plan of having a lot of stuff each day, which is kind of risky in the sense of just kind of like you go on vacation to try and rest. But if you're doing a lot of stuff, right, it could tire you out. But we had planned pretty good because it was like some of the stuff took like half the day. So you're able to rest a lot of the time. But, right out the gate, we start and go to Wailea, which is like the Grand Canyon of the Pacific. It's literally this huge area in Kauai that's just, it looks like the Grand Canyon, but it's super wet and it's got like waterfalls and other stuff. So you're able to kind of spend the time that you want there. So it was a nice start to kind of walk yourself through stuff and not like spend all day there, but you can leave whenever you want and take some pictures and scoot on out of there. And then the next day is when we went on a morning cruise to actually the picture behind me, the Napili Coast, and that fact that the thing over my left shoulder, when you look at my shoulder, actually is the right side, is the place we parked, I think, to eat and snorkel and stuff. And you get to see, that's where we actually saw dolphins like jumping in front of our boat. There's several boats that go out there, but I highly recommend Captain Andy's. Shout out to Captain Andy's because just a cool boat ride, cool people. Captain was really cool, and that's a 5-hour deal. And it's one of those things, right? They tell you, it's a nice boat ride out. You get to see all these sights, but man, you're on the ocean, and it's raining. It's waves are not as small as you think. So if you're not a big ship going person or you get sick or whatever, because there's people throwing up over the side of this thing, and we had taken our Dramamine, so we were fine. But it's not as it's super awesome, but it's definitely not for the squeamish of the stomach. So yeah, I mean, then mixed in some golf, uh, and just had a blast. And then when you come home from the morning thing, we got done with that thing, the boat, at like 2 o'clock. So you're back at your place wherever you're staying by 3, and you have the rest of the day to go to the pool or do whatever. So we mixed in. Had never been to Kauai, so it's one of those things where the funny couple of funny things. One, like the fastest you could drive on Kauai is like 50 miles an hour, and there's only a couple stretches of that. Otherwise, most roads are like 25. And so when
Mm-hmm.
you're from California driving fast all over the place, when I first started, coming out of the airport, I'm like, "Brr," just jamming all over the place, looking at the speed limit signs. I'm like, whoa, everybody's like slow in front of me. I'm braking. And I was with my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law, and it was like, you got to get yourself on island time, and that stuck in my head because I was right out the gate talking about island time, and I'm thinking the cool thing about going over to Hawaii is like you literally you don't even know what day it is. You're just
Mm-hmm.
like, what day of the week. The weather's always the same. It's 85 degrees and it might rain a little bit. Then it stops after 5 minutes and it's perfectly sunny again. There's rainbows, and they all blend together, which is really cool because it makes it truly feel like you're on vacation. So got back. Flight there was awesome. We upgraded our seats to have more foot room in front of us, which I highly
Yep.
recommend. Especially you being a super tall guy. Um, and just both flights were going over there was easy, and coming back was easy. I mean, you got to get to the airport and do the TSA crap, but once you're through that
Are you a
stuff,
TSA pre? Are you a TSA pre-check guy?
I am not a pre-check. Um, so they're
I would
coming
highly
back.
recommend it.
Well, coming back, there's people in pre-check and kind of bragging. We were the line was long. They were taking a long time in the
Mm-hmm.
airport in Kauai, and it was like not a big deal. We were there early enough, but somebody was saying, "Oh, pre-check's the way to go," and I'm like, "Okay." And it was funny because we had a, I don't know if you're familiar with Turo. Do you know what Turo is?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, of course.
Okay, so Turo for the listeners is like it's kind of like a rental
Renting
car
someone's
place, but you're
car.
renting from somebody, the public.
Mm-hmm.
So we dropped
Mm-hmm.
our Turo car off, and you park it in the Target parking lot, and we're sitting, and then there's this like, place to sit under while you wait for the shuttle to the airport. And we pull up, and it starts pouring, like pouring. Now it rained, sometimes it poured, but it was quick. This thing lasted a good 5, 10, 15 minutes again. But I mean, pouring, dumping, like, and our bags are out of the car already, and we're not under the overhang. So I lifted the back of I forget what kind of car it was, and we're standing under there waiting for this. And I'm thinking, and the shuttle just left to go back to the airport, and they say it's like a 30-minute wait. So I'm like, forget this, pull my phone out and grab an Uber. And the
Yeah.
dude's right there within like 2 minutes. He's super cool. It's not that far of a trip. It's just you have to wait. There's only one shuttle that goes around. And so we get there, and there's people that were waiting. So you talk about a time saving. There was people under the tent. I remember seeing some of those people get in line for TSA, and we're well in front of them just because we took that. So you want to talk about saving time. If you could find yourself, pre-checks one thing to do, but if you have to wait for shuttles or whatever, and you could Uber a different or get there a different way. And so it's just like anything else. I feel like if we felt like we're going to be late or something, then pre-check. I'd rather upgrade my flight. Um,
Mm-hmm.
our flights were cheap. I recommend getting like a Hawaiian Airlines, Alaskan Airlines, like credit card, max that thing out, get all your points, and then use those for your flights, because our flights were $35 to go to Hawaii, which they're normally like $600-700 or whatever it is now a piece. And so we were able to upgrade to get, like I said, bigger room in front of us. And I looked at like going first class, and I'm like, that's ridiculous. I mean, it's super nice, obviously, but you're talking like
It's not,
$1,500.
yeah. Yeah, we do the same thing. We go to Cabo. We're going, just Gabby and I, we go once a year to Cabo. We're going August 1st. And we fly Alaska. We're flying from San Francisco direct to Cabo. But they have a thing called, it's basically business class, right? You got rows 1 through 5 are your first class seats. Rows 6 through 10, they call it premium seating, which is basically what you're explaining. You get like 6 extra inches of leg room, and you get free drinks on the flight, which is kind of neat. But the cool thing about it is, especially when you're flying internationally, is you're in rows 6 through 10. So when you get off the plane and you're going through customs, you're one of the first people to get off the plane and be able to do those things, and that saves you. Talk about saving time. I think what we normally do is we just buy regular seats, and then when you go in through your confirmation code, and you can upgrade. Like I think ours, I just looked the other day, we do it like the day before, the week before. It's like an extra $45 to do the premium seating. When we go to Cabo, we do it every single time. It just saves you so much time. You get so much more leg room. I think one of those things, like first class is great, but those premium seats are good enough. And if you're
Oh
gonna have
yeah,
to
for
spend,
sure.
you know, 400 extra bucks to upgrade to first class, when I could just sit in rows 6 through 10 and get extra leg room, and I'm happy and I'm comfy, being a tall guy. It's so much it's so necessary. And it's like you save so much time and you're so comfortable. Like the little extra money goes a long way when it comes to that kind of stuff. So we do the same thing. The reason why I
Yeah.
like about TSA pre-check, is I'm a big fan of like not having to take my shoes off at the airport. I cannot stand
Oh
it.
yeah.
Or take your belt
Yeah,
off or your
that's
hat off. I feel like once I've already gotten dressed for the day, and I'm a big guy and everybody's rushing to get your bags out of the TSA line, it's kind of nice. I've had TSA pre for like probably 7 or 8 years, and so we do it that way. But yeah, any little time you can save or money you can save while traveling, I always feel like, if as long as it's not outlandish in price and it can save you some time, and save you a little bit of a headache, especially if you're traveling with your family or whatever, and you got like I said, we were traveling with 6 people, so getting everybody's bags and getting stuff from TSA and all that stuff, we can save yourself 15-20 minutes. I'm always down to do that. So good on you.
well. There's isn't in Mexico they do the cultural, like the check or whatever, like the passport. I mean, like once you land, you're in a different country, so there's a app or
Yeah,
something. If
you what?
you want to do
Yeah,
that ahead,
we
that's one thing we
download
do
that
ahead
too.
of time.
Yeah, yes,
I forget the name of
that
it.
saves you so much time. And yeah, it's I forget. It's like a declaration kind of thing where you put
Yeah,
your flight in, you put who you are. It's on an app, and then you could almost
yeah,
essentially walk right through. I think it saves us more time coming back to the United States than it does, like, because when you go through customs in Mexico, it's pretty simple. You talk to the guy, you walk through, you grab your bags, and then you essentially just get in this other line, and you hit that button. If it's red, they check your bags. If it's green, you just walk right through. And so, like when you're traveling like that, especially if you're traveling with any kind of group, if you can save yourself some time to be able to use your travel to actually go to your resort or go to your Airbnb and like
right.
start your vacation, I'm always down for saving time when it
Well,
comes to that kind of
and
stuff.
some of those, like if you do it with, especially with that, I remember I was like, there's nobody in line, and then you look at literally everybody else that was like on your flight or other flights was in line having to do that stuff still. And you kind of walk by them and
Hmm.
almost snicker, like, and I don't know what
Yeah,
you guys needed to. I mean, you didn't figure this one out. We did, and we're off and running to, to the vacation, like you're
yeah.
saying.
The
You're
only thing, the only, the only bad thing is like if you're checking a bag, which we normally check a bag because like I'm not sure if you've ever like been to a resort and you try to get like any kind of sunscreen or sun lotion, any kind of stuff like that. Like we just went and checked. They sell those like little bottles of sunscreen for like $40. So it's like we always bring our own Therefore, we have to check a bag. So there's some kind of waiting, whether your bags come out first or if you're traveling with your golf clubs. But
Right.
any kind of time you can save by doing those things, like I always do them, and I always try to fly. Like there's sometimes you can save yourself some money while flying if you have a stop somewhere. I'm the guy that always pays like the extra 50.
Right.
And then when I get off it, I want to be at my destination. I don't have to get off, change planes, do all that kind of stuff. So we always spend a little extra money just to fly direct, especially when you're going to Cabo. Cabo is like a 2 hour and 45-minute flight. And one time we had to have a layover somewhere, and it just caused a lot. And then you're worried about making your connection flight. And then so it's like, you know what, let's just spend the extra 60, $70, fly direct. That way, when you land, we're already in Mexico, and vice versa. When you're flying home, once you get on that plane, and when that plane lands, you're back in San Jose or San Francisco. I think it's key to traveling, man.
Oh yeah, all that stuff. And I remember spending I was packed literally. I had my suitcase packed for like a month, and I'm weird like that. Like stuff I might not wear, clothes wise, regularly at home, like a bathing suit, let's say. You just throw that stuff in there, and you just kind of get it ready because I don't want to forget anything. Now obviously these places you go, you could buy stuff, especially like you're talking about sunscreen or whatever, but the more stuff you could like bring, and you end up probably over bringing stuff or over packing. But man, to me it's like being able to dig through your bag and have your stuff is way more easier than like, oh crap, I got to run to some store. Even like I said, especially in Hawaii, they pretty much have everything, but again, you're also paying crazy amounts of dollars. You'd think that
I have a travel
expensive.
question for you.
Okay.
I got a travel question for you, Brad. I think I might know your answer just because I know you very well, and you're very much like me. When you get home from your trip, do you like immediately unpack, or do you like take like a day or two to unpack? Like I'm the guy that when I get home from we just got back from San Diego, I take my whole entire suitcase, walk it right out to the washing machine, and whether I wore it or not, it's going in. And that way I can put my suitcase away. All the clothes that I just brought are now getting washed and cleaned and folded again, and now I can just move on with my day. Whereas like Gabby, because she packs for Logan and me, like it takes her some time because she packs more stuff than I do essentially. But I'm the kind of guy like I want to get unpacked. I want to get everything washed. That way I have everything at my discretion where if I want to rewear it, I can rewear it again. If I want, you know what I mean? I'm so weird about that kind of stuff.
No, that's exactly me. And the other thing, I'll go one step further. Before I travel, if you want the house to be immaculately cleaned, just
clean before.
Send me on vacation, because I'm cleaning things that haven't been cleaned in months, years. Like I want to walk back into my house as if it was.
Oh God, so
looking like
and yeah.
So check this one out. I don't know if I told you this, but I told you, but real quick, the viewers out there, the about 15 hours before our flight, we found out that the Airbnb that we were staying in, the unit above it had water damage that came into our unit. So we were booted out of our place that we had booked over a year in advance. So that, I won't get into that story, but it is what it is. And the place we ended up getting into, in my opinion, was a lot better. But pull up, you're talking about your clothes and all your stuff. We get home, it's like, I want to say 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Pull up, I tell Amy, I'm like, hey, could you open the garage door? I got to take my golf clubs out and put them in the garage. So here comes the garage door, and she walks out. She's like, we got a problem. And I'm like, when she's saying that, it's a problem. I might like say it's a problem, and there's like some ants, in some food or something. But when she says it's a problem, it's a problem. So I kind of walk over there, and water's gushing pretty much out my garage. our water heater burst at
Yeah.
some point over our trip. And so it turns into trying to figure out what to do with that. Like, do I get a 24-hour plumber over here? Basically, we end up turning off the water heater, so we had water, just not hot water. So now you talk about doing laundry, showering, like getting comfortable coming home, and we get to do none of that because we don't have hot water now. Granted, you could do what you want in a cold shower or whatever, but it just, and then what's it do? It forces me the next day to deal with it. And the water heater was under warranty, but nobody in where we live, nobody's selling that brand anymore. So I told the guy who was installing it, I'm
Mhm.
like, dude, just put a new one in. Like, I'm not waiting. It cost a shit ton of money that you just spent, on
Mhm.
vacation. Now you come home and now you have $2,100 in water heater. But I'm like, do it. Like,
Mhm.
do it. So Amy hadn't showered in like 3 days,
Mhm.
so she got to come home and take a warm shower. That's part of the reason I did. But because I don't know, you have this thing under warranty, and does it, does it take a week to get the new one? Or and this guy's like, I can go get one in about a half hour. I'll be right back. Sure enough, he's there and puts it all together. I'm like, yeah, we're doing that. We're not messing around
Yeah.
and waiting. So, and it goes to back to what you're saying. It's like, you have these routines, and that routine was just thrown way out of whack when you come home and there's water, spraying all over your
Ugh.
garage. So luckily it didn't like get into the walls or, in the floor, the concrete of our garage, just kind of rolled out and was pretty safe and didn't do any other damage. But man, that was like, it's funny. You leave and you have water issues that aren't in your
Related
control,
to
and you
you.
come home and
Yeah.
then, so it was like bookend issues. But either way, in between, the trip was awesome, and not many, not really any hiccups as far as stuff along the way. Just
Yeah.
super awesome time. So
We normally when we go on vacation, especially if we go like to like a San Diego when we have the whole family, I always just rent a car. Well, we were staying at the gas lamp in the downtown San Diego, where essentially if you're eating, you're walking to your get your food. And so I was like, okay, do I rent a car or do we just like Uber? And so then I called the hotel and I'm like, you guys have like a storage fee for the car overnight? And the guy goes, yeah, it's $65 a night to leave your rental car at the Hard Rock. And I go, well, that makes my decision very, very easy. Because now you're spending a couple $100s on the rental car to begin with. You got to pay for gas, and then you're traveling in a location where you're not super familiar with. So I kind of priced it out, and with the fees from the hotel and renting the car and all that stuff is going to cost like $500. Well, what we did was we were just like, okay, we're just going to Uber everywhere, and I think we ended up paying like $200 total dollars for Ubers. So I saved myself $300, and not to mention I don't have to drive anywhere. So we just kind of like go on the app and get an Uber XL. You get like a minivan or a Suburban. Everybody just hops in. They drop, even when we're at SeaWorld, you're not paying for parking at SeaWorld. You just drop you right at the gate. And it was like the best thing I ever did because Gabby was like really adamant on getting a rental car because we always have a rental car. And I'm like, I think this is going to work. But where we're staying and what we're doing, we're taking like essentially like 10 or 15-minute Uber rides, which costs us like $25 away. And we don't have to worry about driving. We don't have to worry about, traffic. We're just letting somebody else drive us. And it was like the single best thing that we ever did. So now that we know, if we go back to San Diego, you definitely do not need a rental car, especially when the guy told me it was going to cost me $185 just to park the car at the Hard Rock. And then if you want valet or whatever, they want like an extra $15. So you're spending like $250 just to house the rental car that you don't even own at the place you're staying at. And it was like the great thing about San Diego is it's a busy area, so there's very easy to get Ubers, like 5 minutes or less. And like I said, we went to SeaWorld. They drop you off at the gate. They pick you up at the gate. when we went to the beach, the guy dropped us off right at the beach, and he picked us up right on the beach, and we took it back. It was so convenient. It was so awesome. I'm so happy that we didn't end up renting a car because it would have been such a bigger headache, you know?
Yeah, that you think it's easier and more convenient, it ends up being the other ways more
Mm-hmm.
convenient. So, hey, let's talk a little sports. College World Series ended. You know, when we had Windsor on the show, we all kind of put our money on certain teams, and you picked the LSU Tigers and came out victorious. So, congrats to you on that pick. But
Go
I want to
Tigers.
talk. Yeah, at the end there, I was watching that Arkansas LSU game, and just the end of it, it was kind of a wild game back and forth, and it was if Arkansas beat them, they had to beat them. They would have had another game, and pretty much had them beat in the ninth inning there. And then what really stood out was the fact that they had first and second, LSU did, and 1 out, and that ball that was hit to the shortstop and could have easily turned 2 to end the game. And he chose to make the play at third. And as a coach, right? As a player too, but as a coach, I was like instantly going, "What are we doing there?" Like, you can't. I don't care if it's a huge moment of the season. Your best player is usually your shortstop, and it's hit right to your dude, and he friggin' makes that boneheaded play, which leads to the next ball that gets hit off the left fielder's shoulder, and the run score. And then the next play, the second baseman drops the line drive, out of his hand, and the winning run scores, and the floodgates open. Now, LSU's got a shot to win it all. You basically handed it to them, and then they feel like world beaters, that no matter who they play, they've seen their death in front of them, and didn't want that to happen again, and obviously then end up winning in the championship series. But it was like, my God, I don't know. As a player, like, I don't know how I would have reacted as a coach. Everybody's crying, and you're hugging the guy that made the mistake, and you're all, your teammates, and you've been through a lot. Man, the more I think about it, I'd be pissed if I was the coach. Like, just pissed. Fucking make the play and win the game for us. Like, maybe at the moment you're hugging up the guy, but I don't know. I was kind of like pissed. And then Arkansas seems to choke their way through the, 2018. They had a chance to beat Oregon State, and they drop a foul ball, or no one even touches it. Oregon State rallies to win, and then wins the next game. And it was just like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's like
bad
a
juju.
huge. It's bad on them, Arkansas, but it also makes it good on LSU if you can find yourself out of that situation. It gives you all the momentum. I kind of felt like and I watched a lot of the College World Series just because we had Jason on, and I like watching the College World Series. So I was more intrigued this year just because of the teams that were in it and who we picked and all that kind of stuff. But you sort of felt like, and Coastal Carolina was a great team, don't get me wrong, but you sort of felt like the winner of that Arkansas LSU series, I kind of thought was going to probably win the whole thing. It's, whether you like it or not, is in those big moments, your best players have to make plays and make the correct play. And if you don't, and you give teams, more, they always say, how many more stressful pitches does the pitcher have to throw after that moment? You always count, like we used to do that, like a guy makes an error or makes the wrong play. How many more stressful pitches does that pitcher have to make to get out of that inning when he could have been out of the inning like 12 to 20 pitches before? Stress pitches, every pitch. So once they got like that break in there, and then they were able to come out victorious, I kind of thought going into the Coastal Carolina series that, especially after watching the first one, I'm like, this is going to be really, really tough for Coastal Carolina to come back and beat them twice. Bigger school, bigger name. They have all the national championships and stuff like that. It was a really, really good series to watch the whole College World Series. But I kind of just felt like when I watched LSU in the Super Regionals, I watched them just for a couple games, and they did a lot of things well, and they just had the momentum. And it just seemed like, if they caught a break here and there, they were going to be the ones that came out on top. And sure as shit, they did.
Well, and then, I was on the vacation but I caught, I don't know, I didn't see it live, but I checked out, the internet and saw the Coastal Carolina coach get ejected in that first inning. And I think I actually saw his reaction, like the press conference, and he kind of owned it. They have the whole BCD, the blame, complain, defend kind of mantra. Basically, they don't do any of that stuff. Don't blame, don't complain. And his whole which is interesting that he said that, because after watching it, I think he didn't understand, he got warned. Then when he went out there for the to get some instruction on that, he started complaining again, saying something about missing 3 calls or something.
3 calls.
And
yeah.
then it went. That's where I think it got real stupid, because that's when the umpire ejects him, and then the other dumb thing where the other umpire steps in and trips over his own feet and falls down or whatever, and
Right.
he gets all pissed off. And it's like, I think the biggest takeaway from that is it's a championship series. Get a little bit more clarity, I think, as an umpire, of what the coach is really trying to do before you eject him. I just felt like it was way too fast. Now, maybe it was warranted, but again, I don't think he cussed or did anything that was like over the top to complain that he missed 3 calls early. Tell him to shut up and go back in the dugout. But, he stuck to the rule of the law. Like, you can't complain about balls and strikes or whatever, and tosses them. So, it is what it is.
I think what's not being really talked about is I think and as a coach, and this, who the home plate umpire is. I'm sure they'd had him at some point, or they've heard a lot about him. That guy used to be a ex MLB umpire and has a short fuse. So as a coach, those are the things that you need to know. Even though I think he was wrongfully ejected, if you know that the guy's got a short fuse, especially in that kind of situation, although I don't feel like he should have been ejected, like I said, you have to know who the umpire is and what he's capable of doing. There's some umpires out there that are out. You always hear this, like, they're out there for the fans to see them. Well, they're not out there to see them. But if you get guys that are like that, and that going in, it may make you slow your roll a little bit and maybe attack the situation. Maybe like in between innings, go out there and say, hey man, you might have missed a couple here and there. But I just don't think, like, the umpire almost felt like dejected, like he was like attacking him, when all he was doing is saying he missed 3 calls. Like we talked about pre-pod today, I didn't know this either, because obviously if you get ejected in a major league game, you can play the next game. Coaches get ejected, they can manage the next game. Well, in the College World Series or college baseball, even if they won game 2, that first base coach and the manager aren't available to coach those games. And so you kind of have to really think about these things. I know that emotions are high and all these kind of things, but those are when you got to slow the moment down as much as you possibly can, knowing that if he was to dump you and you're out of the game, that you're not only missing the 9 innings from that game, but you're also missing the next game as well. So that's kind of like what I saw. I think it's kind of bullshit to get thrown out for something like that. But I think it's the knowledge of who is the guy calling the balls and strikes and what he's capable of doing. And that's something that you have to know going into a game, especially a game of that magnitude.
No, I agree with that, especially the part about knowing who the umpire is, because you got to know, like, and I just feel like LSU did what they needed to do. Hey, Cruz, I gotta step out really quick. I got something going on. I'll be right back, but give us your take on the Giants so far.
Yeah, I called 6 weeks ago or 7 weeks ago that we needed a power left-handed hitting bat in our lineup, and I called us getting Rafael Devers. Number one, we have a need. He's a left-handed hitter, left-handed power hitter. He can DH, and if you can convince him to play first base, on some level, then you could, have him play multiple positions. And I think that they filled that need. I think Buster Posey is doing a really, really good job of attacking what we need as a club, and that is for us to score runs. I think we went through a stretch like 2 weeks ago where we had 12 games and we scored 25 runs. And I think in those games we were like 5-7 or 6-6, which is really, really good for us. But it's going to take some time. I always tell people, if you want to know what Rafael Devers is going to do, there's this old term that we use is look on the back of his baseball card, meaning every year he's going to hit 275. He's going to probably hit 30 homers. He's going to drive in 100 runs. And the fact that he was so unhappy in Boston, and when you get traded and you get like a fresh new beginning, I think it's really, really going to help the Giants long term with their, they're going to be chasing the Padres. They're going to be chasing the Dodgers. The Dodgers, even when the Dodgers have a bad stretch, the Dodgers are going to be a good team, and they're not going to really go away. I think it's going to be really tough for us to win the division in the West just because of what we have in front of us. I think it's really important. We just got swept by the Marlins at home. You talk about winning the games that you need to win, beating teams that you're better than. Obviously, we didn't do a very good job against the Marlins. And then the second thing, and we haven't done a very good job either, is that we got to beat the teams in our division to be able to gain ground and catch those teams. I don't know how many back. I think we were like 5 games back now, and you got like the Padres are I think right with us or maybe a little behind us. So we're going to need to continue pitching well. I do think the Rafael Devers thing is a really, really, really good idea. The Casey Schmidt thing is kind of crazy, going from being a shortstop, and then he was primarily playing first base against lefties. Well, then he got the chance to play third base when Chapman went down, and all of a sudden, second base is sort of opened up with Tyler Fitzgerald not having the season that he'd like to have, and so now you got Casey Schmidt over at second base, primarily playing second base, and you got a lot more options. I think they were talking about a thing the other day with Verlander, and I think he's made like 12 starts and he hasn't got a win. But the crazy thing about the Verlander thing is it kind of sort of reminds me of how Matt Cain was years back, where he's not really pitching excellent, but I think his ERA is like 4.3. We're not. The bottom line is for us to be successful, 2 things need to happen. We need to score runs, score more runs, and then the back end of our bullpen we don't have like that shutdown closer. We've already went through 2 different guys, and we're trying to figure our way. If we can continue to pitch well, and if we can continue to score runs, Devers is going to help that. Devers is going to be the guy that some thump in the middle of the lineup. But we gotta be able to close games out and beat the teams we need to beat. We cannot go into a series at home against an inferior team like the Marlins and get swept. It just can't happen, because you're gonna find us falling further and further down the list. And like they were talking about, the Dodgers had like a little bit of a skid there, but their skid is like 8-4. Like the Dodgers are not going anywhere. They're so talented. They're only going to get more healthy too. They're pretty injured right now, and you got Ohtani back pitching again. So I just think we're gonna be putting ourselves in a position where the games inside our division, if we're going to try to gain any ground at all, we're going to have to beat those teams, and so far we have not done that.
I can't believe how inept our bats are. I'm watching the game last night versus I pretty much one of the few times I've watched, I think, from first pitch to last pitch was last night. And, they're playing the White Sox, who were like the worst team in baseball, and one of them. And the amount of pitches that were, for Major League Baseball, the amount of pitches that were over the plate for the Giants to hit, that they got a piece of, that they popped up, that they weren't driving into gaps or just hitting hard. It's unbelievable how it's still happening to those guys. And, I think the White Sox staff gives up like 6 runs a game. And here the Giants basically luck out. Bailey's triple should have been a single and maybe a run. It gets by the right fielder, but it's like, man, it's not like they're dominating people still, and their pitching staff as a whole is so good. It's it's like a broken record every time we talk about it. It's the same deal. So hopefully Devers comes in and starts hitting the ball hard, and Chapman comes back. Like, I don't know. I just maybe if I don't know if it happens at the end of the season. At some point, if it ends up happening, they could be so good, it's ridiculous. But until then, they're just gonna.
Yeah, you got to have the guy. Yeah, you got to have the guys like the Jung Hoo Lee. He can't hit like 250 or 260. He needs to be a guy that's like a staple at the top of our lineup to get the table set for the other guys. And hopefully you get Chapman back. The one guy who I think has gotten a tad better is Willie Adames. Obviously, we paid a lot of money for Willie Adames and what he can do. If you can get like a Chapman going when he gets back healthy, and you get Adames going, and you get Devers going, to kind of like sure up the middle of the lineup, you probably will see us score some more runs. Maybe a addition by the Yastrzemskis of the world, and Bailey gets a heater going. But those guys, especially in the middle of our order, the Chapmans and Adames and Devers, those guys have to be the catalyst for our offense to be able to put the balls in gaps and get guys in scoring position and then drive them in. And you get like a Wilmer Flores home run here and there. But us scoring 3 runs a game, it just the water it's just going to keep flowing out. Basically, we have to be able to score more runs on a consistent basis for us to be long-term competitors even in the NL West. So yeah, it's kind of tough to watch at times to see our pitching staff do such a good job, and then we don't do anything on our offensive side to score runs. So it's tough, man. It's hard to watch.
I agree. Let's shift gears into the Niners, because I want to do an interesting thing and kind of go position by position. I don't know if we'll get through everybody depending on how much we talk about each spot, but I want to talk about one player at each position that needs to either, if you want to call it stepping up, or just kind of have a breakout year or a comeback year, whatever you want to say. Because I think there's surprises that you would think that, certain guys need to have a good year, obviously, but like, I think there's even at the quarterback position, I think some guy, and all know who he is, needs to have a great year. And we'll start with that in a second, but it's like, you're not going to be paying Brock Purdy that kind of money for him to be average. I mean, he can't be average anymore. He's got to be a top 10 quarterback, in my opinion. And I don't care if he's got the weapons around him, like he's had pretty much his whole career. Now he's got to be the one that he's got to win some games for them. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so
yeah.
Let's start at quarterback. Do you think there's you got Mac Jones, you got Curtis Rourke. He's a rookie, so you don't know. What do you think at the quarterback spot?
Well, you said it. You hit on the nose. Like, positionally, like last year, pre this deal that he just signed, if he had a bad skid, he probably would get benched for Mac Jones. We need to be in a position where that's not even a conversation, right? He can't be the 15th best quarterback in the NFL at what he's making, and we shouldn't be able to even talk about Mac Jones entering the game because of his bad play. It can't be that way just because of what he just signed. He's got to be. I think he's a great leader and all that. I think staying healthy is going to be very important for him. But he's got to be a dude now, and he's got to be the guy. And if you're getting paid that kind of money, it has to start from him. And so, the whole, can he be a top 10 quarterback? I don't know. I hope he can. I think he can, but he has to. It's not even we can't like question whether he could do it or not. He needs to do it.
Right. So moving on to running back, you've got McCaffrey. Garendo is listed as second. You got Jordan James, Patrick Taylor, and then you got Juszczyk. I'm just counting running backs. They don't have a backup fullback per se. They put other people in there. But who do you see as in that group as needing to be either step up or just, be the guy more than ever in that position?
Well, I mean, not trying to be like obvious, but it's all McCaffrey. I mean, and I think I don't. It has nothing to do with his ability because when he's on the field, he's great. It's can he stay on the field? Those years that he was in Carolina, where he was great, he was healthy. And the year that we traded for him, he was our guy. I think, but more importantly, though, to keep him healthy, I think you need to limit his snaps if you can. He was on the. If you remember, like in the Super Bowl run 2 years ago, the guy's on the field every single play. So maybe the guy that needs to step up is Garendo because he's going to get the ball. And if he can step and be like a integral piece of our offense, I think we're going to be in a good spot.
I'm going to go a little different route, and I'm going to go with Juszczyk. And the reason I'm going there is because I think he's in a spot when you don't have a person literally on the depth chart behind you. Not that he takes it easy because he plays hard and he's like a Swiss Army knife, but I think they need more out of him. I mean, if your offensive line is not as good as it, maybe it gets better with free agents or whatever they end up doing still with some of their moves they might make. But that guy needs to plow some, you have a fullback, yet you don't really give him the ball, in the run game. So I just think that like he's super valuable, but I just think he needs to be a little bit better. And they basically got rid of him and then re-sign him. Hopefully he's motivated, right? I think he is. I think he's that kind of guy. But I like to see more out of him. And there's obvious players like you said with McCaffrey, but I want to see Juszczyk like have a chip more like the biggest chip on his shoulder out of anybody, in the backfield for sure. That obviously if he plays well, the other guys have a better chance at doing what they're supposed to do. So that's my spot. I'm gonna stick the tight end position in with the offensive line because the tight ends behind Kittle are it's Luke Farrell and Dwelly and Brandon Willis. It's not like those other guys get a ton of reps. But you got Trent Williams, Ben Barch penciled in to start at left guard, Brandell, Pooney, and Colton McKivitz as your offensive line. Who do you think needs to be who needs to be that much better at that at that position?
Well, I just think our offensive line needs to be better in all positions, but I'm not trying to take the easy way out. But if Trent Williams can play 13 or 14 games this year and he's healthy and he's the normal Trent Williams to kind of control the left side of the offensive line and protect his blind side, I think for Purdy to be great, Trent Williams has to be playing. I think we shuffle way too many guys in and out of our offensive line as it is, and for us to be successful, it needs to be with a healthy Trent Williams. Obviously all positions need to take a step in the right direction, but I think a healthy Trent Williams, a motivated Trent Williams on the left side of our offensive line will really, really sure up what we need to do offensively.
Yeah, I think there's that. I think McKivitz is in a contract year if I'm reading things correctly, at right tackle, and they're talking about potentially signing him on a short-term contract because you don't want to lose like both tackles. If I'm assuming Trent Williams like retires after this year, but I'm hoping if he plays like people do in contract years. Obviously, like you said, I look at our guys and I think they're pretty good offensive linemen, but they're not Super Bowl winning offensive line in my opinion. So across the board, obviously, guys need to step up. But McKivitz on the right side, especially in the run game, right? Because you want to run the ball a lot. When it's nut cutting time, who you running behind? You're running behind Trent Williams. But if you can get people on the other side moving, and get more balance, right? They do those hit charts, right? You could see how many yards they get running to your left, how many yards you get running up the middle,
right.
and it's obvious where the most yards come from, and they need to fix that. I mean, you got to be more balanced and scare people being able to run, you know, both
Yeah.
ways
Plus,
and
you
up
don't
the
want
middle.
you don't want the defense to shift that way, knowing that we're only running the ball to the left side behind Trent Williams. If you're able to run the ball on both sides, it kind of makes the defense be more balanced and kind of you can attack it from the middle and from both sides. I think that's where we need to be. If we can't be so left side dominant, and for us to be balanced, we need to be able to run both ways. So McKivitz needs to have a good year.
Yeah, and obviously, pass protection, like you said, makes Purdy that much better, and obviously got to keep him healthy. So that'll be obviously in my opinion, most watched position early on. Um, I'm still hoping they get some reinforcements there because I think they're
Mm-hmm.
going to need it. Burford's been pretty good as a backup, but these other guys that are listed aren't doing much for me. Just in the name,
Yeah,
the name,
you're gonna see some veteran guys when they go through camp get cut. And I think you're gonna see the Niners go after a couple of those guys that have been around and they could potentially they think they can trust. Sometimes the guys will get like cut because of contractually it doesn't really work out for them. I don't think we're done. I think what you're going to see is like after camp and before the season starts, the Niners adding a piece or two on the offensive line just to shore it up, and so that way we can be the team that we need to be. We're going to be a run first team. It's always going to be that way. We're going to be control the clock, control the line of scrimmage on the offensive side, and so for us to do that, our offensive line has to be better.
Totally agree. Absolutely 100%. Move into the defense. We'll start up front. You got projected D-line starters. They're already putting Mikael Williams as a starter across the other side from Bosa.
Mm-hmm.
Got Jordan Elliott and Kevin Givens. They have CJ West as backing up Givens. I know the D-line, they rotate dudes a lot, so that's why they always draft that position to have some depth there. But out of that group, who do you see needs to be the one that has?
It's something that we talk about all the time. Is we need to be better stopping the run. It allows the guys on the edge to get to the quarterback and do what they need to do. So I'm just going to say, as a position group, the guys in the middle have to be a lot better. When we had Hargraves, we all thought he was going to be our savior in the middle of the defensive line, and he was not very good for us. So I'm just going to say the guys that play inside, if we can stop them from getting 5 to 6 yards of carry on first down and making it second and short, if we can get to that 2nd 8, 3rd and 7, where you get the guys on the edge, Bosa can go after the quarterback and get him. That's where we need to be, is like a not 3rd and manageable or 2nd and manageable. It's got to be like a 3rd and long situation where these guys can go tee off and go get the quarterback.
I agree. I think if you're paying attention as a player on a team, right, you see who your team is drafting, and if they're drafting your position, you probably need to worry a little bit. So when you're getting, trying to fortify the inside, I agree. It's Givens and Elliott, whoever plays there. It could be West, doesn't matter. I just didn't like watching them give up a 7-yard run on first down, like almost all the time.
And it's like easy, like the whole,
yes,
like you could run through those holes, like no doubt, like you're getting 4 yards there, and the guys that are playing against are getting 7 yards there, and all of a sudden, as you know, you're a defensive guy, you're a coach, you've been coaching forever. If you get in those like 2nd 2 and 2nd 3s, I mean, everything in the playbook's open, and it allows the deep ball to be there early in downs. And so if we have to be better on first down, and we have to be better at stopping the run. I think that's what I don't think it's being a better pass defense on first down. I think it all comes down to us stopping the run on first down, limiting those 6 and 7 yard carries on first down. If we can get to like the 2nd 8 or 2nd and 9, where they have to really, really think about what they want to do, and then you get in the 3rd and long, you can do what you need to do in the defensive backfield, and then all of a sudden the guys in the corner can go get the quarterback and get some more sacks. I think that's going to be key for us moving forward for our defense.
Yeah, I agree. Moving to inside linebacker, you got weak inside linebacker D Winters. Your middle linebacker is Frederico, and then you got Nick Martin because they're doing a 4-3 defense this year, so you got three linebackers.
Right.
Um, so it's interesting to have Nick Martin in there already, which is fine if you're drafting
It's a
guys.
good sign.
Get them in there,
Mm-hmm.
let them play. So who do you think in the middle? Well, not necessarily in the middle, but second level needs to be the one that has the breakout year or steps up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to worry about what Fred Warner is going to do. Fred Warner is Fred Warner. I think he's probably the best linebacker in the game. For me, it's got to be the rookie. If he's going to be in there and he's going to be a starter and he's going to get snaps and he's going to play a lot of downs, he needs to be that guy that sits beside or stands beside Fred Warner, and he's an impact player right away. We drafted him where we drafted him because we think he's going to play, and he needs to be that guy that Fred Warner can trust and know that he's in the right spots where he needs to be. And I think that's why I think we talked about this a few weeks ago in one of our podcasts. Like, that's what's so great about having Fred Warner. Not only is he a great player, but it seems to me like he's a great teacher. And if I was that Nick Martin kid, I would be following Fred Warner around and annoying him so much that I would just make him, help me out and know that I'm in the right spots. That way I can stay on the field and be an impact player in the second level of our defense.
I think that I agree with that. It's anybody but Fred. I just think the unit as a whole, you talk about stopping the run. If your D line isn't doing it, your backers need to be doing it. And Fred, I think, did so much last year. He just didn't have enough help. And so it's imperative that those three guys are cleaning up whatever the front's doing, getting their run fits in the right spot. And if there's a mistake up front, that they clean it up with, obviously playing with passion. And the middle linebacker, the linebacker spot is always supposed to be your toughest guys. So, hopefully that happens, and having Sala in there and is the mentality of the defense that he brings to his defenses. Hopefully that whole position group just rises up with everything as far as, getting everybody emotionally ready too. So secondary wise, you got criminal Demo, who's resisting arrest or whatever he's doing. He just needs to shut his mouth and deal with whatever's going on. You got Jair Brown and Mustafa and Renardo Green, but they have them listed, Mustafa and Brown, but they're, injured. Hopefully I guess if they're projected to be the starters, that means they have a good chance of coming back. And they have the nickel is Upton Stout, again, another rookie listed as a starter as far as, when they play their nickel group. So who do you see back there that needs to be better?
Yeah, assuming everyone is healthy, well, we can only assume. I think. Well, I really like watching Malik Mustafa play, especially losing guys that we've lost in the back end of our defense. I think he's the kind of guy that needs to step up, big hitting guy. Could be a real impact guy for us, I think, moving forward, as long as he can be healthy. I love the way he flies around the field. So if he can make that jump and become semi-elite in the back end of our defense, I think that's what we're looking for him. I don't think you have to worry about, as long as Lenore's not going to get in too much trouble. I think Lenore is a great player. But I think Malik Mustafa is the guy I look at to really make a big step forward, assuming he can stay healthy. And obviously we're always assume they stay healthy. I think it's Mustafa on the back end.
Yeah, I agree with that, but also I think Brown, the safety guys need to be the ones. Your corners are your corners. I think teams have good corners. It's a tough position out there. They're going to give up some stuff, but I think, again, we've talked about this before. Like, you need to be strong down the middle, right? You need a good interior D line, like we're talking about. You need your linebackers like Fred and then you need your safeties down the middle to clean up stuff and make it like you said with Mustafa hitting people. He's kind of got a little bit of that Ronnie Lott. You know, people should be a little bit scared going over the middle, and make them scared. Dislodge the ball. Make plays constantly. So those guys, especially with you're talking about assuming healthy, I think part of this whole discussion is like stay healthy, whatever it takes. You obviously play your ass off.
Yeah.
But having your better players not in there kills you. And so, do whatever it takes to stay healthy so you can stay on the field and be the guy that you're supposed to be. Special teams, it is what it is because you usually have just one guy. They have Cowings. Let me go back. We totally skipped to the wide receiver position on offense. I don't know how you missed that too, but let's go back to offense. And you've got Ayuk starting, you got Jennings, and you got Pearsall, and all three of them have injuries that they're coming off of. You've got some unproven people behind them. You got Demarcus Robinson, who's proven. Cowing, who you don't know. He's kind of could have a breakout year, and this Jordan Watkins guy. So I think there's people pushing the starters, supposed starters. So I think the competition there is good. So who do you think? Maybe it's a couple guys needs to step up at the wide receiver spot.
Well, I think especially because I think they project Ayuk to come back like week 11 if everything goes right, or week 10 or something like that. I think it's sort of an easy one for me. I think it's Pearsall. I think Pearsall needs to be the guy in year 2 where he could be 1,000-yard receiver. He needs to be that impact guy over the middle that we need him to be. We drafted him in where we drafted him for a reason. And he had the shitty thing that happened to him last year. That's kind of but you don't expect something like that to happen to him again. But he needs to be healthy, and he needs to be a guy where Brock Purdy on third downs, it's not just going to Juwan Jennings, and he has that secondary option where he doesn't have to just go to Kittle and Juwan Jennings. It could be. I think what needs to happen is Pearsall needs to be the guy that pushes to be the number one wide receiver on the Niners, especially until Ayuk gets back. I think that early in the season, I think you're going to see a lot of targets go his way. And if he can stay on the field and be healthy and be impactful, I think you're going to see him get the 7 or 8 catch games early in the year and be able to push that where he's not only getting, third down conversions, but he's scoring touchdowns. We've seen him with breakaway speed and in space. So we just basically need him to be the guy that we assumed he was when we drafted him in the first round. And so that's the guy that sticks out to me when it comes to wide receiver room for the Niners.
I agree. I think that's a big one, but I also think it's the guys behind him in that second tier, Robinson, Cowing, and Watkins. I feel like one of them need to push. It's such a sports really at any level is the competition within your own team. Like all these guys want to be on the field, right? I mean, you don't want to sit the bench, you don't want to not be in, right? So can one of those other guys push Pierce? It is what it is. If he ends up not panning out or just being kind of average, and one of these guys overtakes him, I'm okay with that as long as somebody steps up and is doing that. I just don't know who that is, and that's why it's besides Jennings and Ayuk being injured, and you don't know what you're going to get when he comes back. I mean, that's a position that needs to, like in the camp, and then also their preseason games are huge to show who it is, and then you'll kind of find out who Shanahan's targeting. I think, like you said, I think Pearsall needs to catch 1 million balls in the preseason. If not him, the other guys that are on the field. So that's why I enjoy watching preseason games, like all the way through. Because you need to see these other guys, do what they, where they're going to fit in, and see who's going to get some balls potentially in the regular season, because they're gonna need dudes in that position seems to be getting hurt a lot too, like everything that everybody else. But
Yeah.
they need to stay healthy more or less there as well. So um, let's see, we're kind of over the hour mark. I want to talk a little bit about the Sharks. I know you're not a big hockey follower. The Sharks, the NHL draft was last night. They had the number 2 pick, and they took a kid, Michael Misa, and then they took a goaltender at 30. And basically, I see them, they're in a serious rebuild, but they also have a ton of money to spend in free agency for hockey. So to me, they're in a spot to get pretty good quickly. What does that mean? Like, does that mean if they're a playoff team this next year, that's a big step forward. Again, depending on who they get in free agency, but they have 2 number 1 first round draft picks next draft. They have all these there, so they're kind of like, the Warriors and the Giants, and like you can get good
Mm-hmm.
quick because of your picks. But anyway, I just think that watching that draft last night, I think they're getting better. Their better players are like 20 years or younger, 20 years old. So if they can get pretty good quickly, I think they're going to be good for a while. But I also saw a stat somewhere talked about like not fan base, but like filling up the arena. And I think there's like a 20-year stretch where the Sharks sold out the San Jose Arena, SAP Center, whatever you want to call it these days. And now when you watch their games over, they haven't made the playoffs in 6 years. And man, it's empty. They need to do something that's exciting. I don't know what that means. Maybe it's a big giant trade for amazing play. I don't know.
A super.
But
Yeah. I mean, they're young, and they got, like you said, they got draft picks. So my thing is whether they make the playoffs or not. That's one thing. I hope they make the playoffs, but it's making the steps in the right direction for this, wherever rebuild you want to call. They need to start showing up, and because like back in the day, as you know, like you go to a Sharks game on a Tuesday night, and that place is rocking. And now it's like I'm at work and I got 10 different guys offering me Sharks tickets to every single game because nobody's going. And so we need to get back to
right.
where, because San Jose is at one time for a long, long time was a very good hockey town. And as of like the last 5 years, it's been pretty bleak, man. And you could go to Sharks games, you can get tickets for almost any game you want. You get your buddies had tickets, and you can go for free essentially. So we need to get back to where the arena's filled up, and the hype is really happening. You start to see the guys play better and win hockey games. That's where we need to get at to start out. And if that means we make the playoffs, then great. If it means that we're at least going in the right direction and we're getting people to start showing up to these games again, that's the direction it needs to start with for me.
Well, and strangely, for how bad they were record-wise, like there were lots of moments, because I still watched them pretty regularly, where there were so many like signs of like good stuff. Even, they're missing tons of pieces, but they need to be watchable on TV. Like you're saying, they need to, and I think they're moving that way. And they ended up trading a bunch of guys to get some picks, and those guys are good players like Granlund and Gadjevich and these other guys that had deep playoff runs for other teams. And they're close, and I think they're doing in my limited hockey behind the scenes knowledge, I feel like they're moving in the right direction. But again, it goes back to hockey not being like a top sport per se that people watch. You need to give them something to watch. The people that go to Sharks games, were kind of the lay person. You had real big hockey fans, but you need to get something. They need to be filling that thing, and to me, filling it is winning. I just think, on another note, like they got a little bit tougher as far as the hockey that they were putting on putting on the ice. But man, the teams that go deep in the playoffs they have tough dudes. Like not only can they score and their goalies are pretty good, but their second, third, fourth line dudes are tough guys. Like just battering people, forecheck. Like, and I just think that's how you win. So I don't know. I think they're moving in the right direction with skill guys, but you need, just like any other sport, you need your mid-round picks, these other guys, these grinder dudes to come in and just really control the game and then free up your superstars, to do what they need to do. So, again, I couldn't tell you like who's a good draft pick for the Sharks in the later rounds or whatever, but it's like, as long as, they're getting better. And I think making the playoffs would be like an amazing step for them to take pretty quickly, which would be nice to see, and obviously get more butts in the seats for sure.
Yes, sir.
Moving on, college football. We don't need to go into it too much because I haven't paid attention to it. I'm gonna go get some magazines and start reading up, but I'm excited to start talking football, not just football like we did with the Niners and this and that, but like, college football, high school players going to college, who's the great players, Heisman Trophy kind of stuff. So who do you, on the top of your head, what are you excited about for college football?
Well, I'd like to see those teams like, I do love the SEC and I like what the product they bring out. Obviously, they got all these first round picks, but like I'd like to see like a Oregon or a Washington or somebody like that to like get in the mix and be like that team. It's weird when it's like Georgia and LSU and Alabama and all these. It seems like it's some Ohio State. Like I want to see a team that maybe you wouldn't expect to be there, get there. I don't know who that team is. I need to get going with the college football stuff, seeing where all the guys landed, all the guys that moved schools and all that kind of stuff. Or I'd also like to see like USC be good again. Like when's the last time USC's been any good? Like why can't we have? I used to remember, I love those days back when you watched the USC games and they had Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart and all those guys. Like I want to see a California team be good again. You know what I mean? Like when's the last time that USC won 10 games? Like I love watching the games at the Rose Bowl when they're meaningful late in the year. So like I'd like to see a team like USC or Oregon, like those old Pac-10 schools, get back in the mix. And it'd be really cool if it was a California school, because obviously we see California games so much more often.
No, I agree with that. I've always been like a West Coast team, even like when Boise was doing their stuff, and they're not quite on the coast, but just that kind of stuff, underdog-ish. But I mean, the Pac-10, Pac-12 guys were never underdogs, but for having some of the best football players in the country, it's the different dynamic keeping them in California now with all that NIL and the money and who's got it. And if you're a kid and someone's throwing money in your face and it happens to be at, the University of Florida or something, you're doing that. So, I mean, there's a lot of that angle to talk about. And pretty early, right? Watching games once they start, who's starting off good and maybe upsetting somebody that they weren't supposed to beat. And so it'll all start heating up here. And I want to, like I said, I want to look at some early matchups, and we could talk about early season matchups and in those early games that have like late season playoff potential, early on. So it'll be good to catch up on college football and other sports as we kind of go through the summer of, we're in between. It's pretty much baseball only right now until, another 100 days or so, whenever that happens. So, I'm excited for that and excited to get back to podcasting and live streaming and all that good stuff with you and doing our thing. You got any final words this week?
Yeah, I got a shout out to my son Logan Cruiser. Turns big number 7 today. Today's his birthday. So our San Diego trip was kind of geared for his birthday, and then we both have to work today. But he's having a bunch of his buddies. We're all going to the round table tomorrow, and we're going to round table it up. He's got like 5 of his school buddies coming down, and we're going to have a big pizza party tomorrow with some of our friends and a bunch of his friends. So we're just getting ready to take him to breakfast for his birthday. We're going to hang out. He wants to play some Minecraft. He's a big Minecraft kid, and we're going to get into some. He's big into the Nintendo Switch, the Mario Brother. So me and him, we partner up and play some Nintendo Switch. So we got a kind of a relaxing day today, and then we got his pizza party tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So shout out to my boy for getting to the big number 7, man.
There you go. Shout out to Logan. That's awesome. Well, listeners out there and viewers, we will be back next week on the weekend and get rolling back into things. It's good to be back, and hope you all enjoyed this week's cast, and we'll be back next week. And Kreuz, have a great weekend and a good week, and get back to your normal routine after being on vacation. And we'll see you all later out there. Take care.
Peace out.
Thank you.